Seattle hid its monsters behind soft lamplight and warm steam rising from coffee cups. But Mina Beck had always seen through polished glass and quiet jazz. The night she slipped a Mafia boss a warning, "Don't drink it," was the night the city finally turned to look back at her. Welcome back to my channel. Before we jump in, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Don't forget to like the video, show some love, and let's get right into it. Rain fell in perfect, silvery curtains outside the Lantern Pearl, the kind of rain Seattle was famous for: quiet, persistent, and somehow comforting if you weren't already drowning inside yourself. Mina Beck walked through it every night after work, letting it soak her thin hoodie, her hair, her skin. The cold made her feel awake, sharper, less trapped. Dark girls like her didn't get soft places to hide, didn't get soft lives. They learned to sharpen themselves into something that could cut through the world before the world cut through them. She wiped her shoes on the mat before stepping inside the cafe's back entrance. The Lantern Pearl wasn't busy yet, still early, but the room already hummed with low jazz and the warm glow of hanging lanterns. Everything looked safe from the outside. The clink of cups, the aroma of roasted beans, the soft chatter of couples on late dates. But Mina knew better. She'd known since her first week here, when she noticed the men in tailored suits who sat in the corner booth and never touched their drinks. She noticed their earpieces, their stillness, the way regular customers instinctively avoided them. And she noticed the man they always watched for, as if gravity changed when he walked into a room. June SEO Park. She had heard of men like him back in Busan. The kind mothers warned daughters to avoid unless they wanted to end up on missing posters or in silk-lined mansions that were cages pretending to be dream houses. She didn't need anyone to tell her who he was. Danger didn't need introductions. It clung to him the way the faintest thread of cigarette smoke clung to a coat. Subtle, expensive, and unmistakable. "You're late," called Daehyun, the barista, without looking up for polishing a glass. His hair was dyed blue this week. Next week would be something else entirely. "I'm 2 minutes early," Mina replied, tying her apron. He snorted. Same thing. It wasn't the staff she feared. The staff were fine. Underpaid, sarcastic, mildly traumatized, but good-hearted. It was the ones behind the frosted glass door of the private rooms who kept her pulse elevated. Tonight felt worse. A tightness in the air. More men in suits. New eyes watching the entrance. The duffel bag one of the lieutenants carried, not even bothering to hide the bulky shape of whatever was inside. Something was happening. Something big. Mina lowered her gaze and cleaned tables, the safest thing she could do. The first hours of her shift passed quietly. She delivered espresso shots, lattes, pastries warmed on small porcelain plates. She smiled when she needed to, kept her voice gentle but distant. Customers liked her. She knew that. She had one of those calm presences that soothed people even when she didn't mean to. But she was not gentle inside. She hadn't been for a long time. Dark girls weren't raised gentle. They grew up learning how to survive. By the time the clock hit 9, the cafe had thinned out. Couples gone. Students gone. Only the inner circle remained. And then he arrived. June SEO Park stepped through the door with the kind of quiet authority that made people straighten their shoulders without meaning to. He wasn't tall, but he was composed, controlled. A man who measured his emotions in exact milligrams. Sharp black suit, even sharper gaze. He nodded once at the staff, acknowledging but not inviting interaction, and disappeared behind the private booth curtain with 2 lieutenants. Mina didn't lift her eyes. She didn't need to. She could feel the shift in the room, like the pressure drop before a storm. 10 minutes later, the stranger entered. He wasn't local. She could tell immediately. LA polish. A too-clean suit, the kind worn by someone who liked to pretend he wasn't part of the dirt beneath his feet. He sat alone at the private booth table, the one reserved for Park, and lifted his chin at Mina. "You miss. Over here." Her stomach tightened, though her face stayed neutral. She walked to the table, pen tucked behind her ear, order pad ready. "What can I get for you?" "Me Silju," he said. "Chilled. And bring it yourself, please." Odd request. The kind only men with bad intentions made. But she nodded and walked toward the bar. The bottle sat on the top shelf. She retrieved it, poured the drink carefully, and turned, and saw him. The stranger's hand, sliding a capsule from inside his sleeve. A tiny, colorless thing. He dropped it with the ease of a man who had done this before. A faint fizz, barely visible. A death sentence dissolving in plum wine. Mina froze. Her heart hit her ribs like a battering ram. She felt the air go thin around her. The entire room blurred, as if she were underwater. No, 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 no. This can't be happening. If she reacted, she'd die. If she shouted, she'd die. If she hesitated too long. Junesio Park entered the room. His eyes flicked briefly toward her, then toward the stranger. A polite nod, the kind exchanged by men who plan to negotiate, threaten, or kill one another, depending on how the first 5 minutes went. Mina's feet moved on instinct, autopilot. She approached the table, placed the drink down, and heard herself say, "Is there anything else I can get you?" Her hands shook. She stuffed them behind her apron. The stranger smiled. "This will be perfect. Perfect. Yes, perfect for murder." Her chest tightened sharply. She couldn't let this happen. She didn't know why she cared whether a mafia boss lived or died, but something in her split open, instinctive and primal. A sense that if she let this happen, she'd become someone even darker than she already was. She grabbed the pen from her apron, wrote something on the corner of her order pad, tore it cleanly. As she set the napkin beside the glass, she slipped the paper beneath it. "Don't drink it. It's poison." Her handwriting was small, sharp, hurried. She stepped back, breathed shallowly, waited. Junesio reached for the napkin first. It was subtle, the minimal shift of fingers, the imperceptible pause. He opened the note the way a man opens a message that could change everything. His gaze flicked to her. Just once. Enough to chill her bones. Then he lifted the drink, swirling it lightly. Acting, performing. He set it down untouched. "Excuse me," he said to the stranger, voice even. "A moment, if you will." He walked away without haste. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2. Then the backroom door opened. 3 men in dark jackets approached the stranger quietly, swiftly. "Come with us." The stranger protested. Briefly. Then he vanished behind the corridor door, and the soundproof walls swallowed whatever came next. Mina tried to breathe normally. Junesio returned 5 minutes later. He sat in the booth alone for several minutes, then rose and walked into the main cafe area. Straight toward her. She kept wiping the counter, pretending not to see him. But he stopped directly in front of her, his presence a cold, precise line drawn across her spine. "You saw something tonight," he said. It wasn't a question. Mina lifted her chin. "I didn't want to, yet you acted. I didn't want anyone to die." It wasn't entirely true, but it was the safest truth. Silence stretched between them. Then, unexpectedly, he nodded. "You made a choice. A dangerous one. I know." His gaze dropped to her trembling hands. "But not a wrong one." He turned and walked away, leaving her stunned. At closing time, Mina went to her locker. When she opened it, an envelope slid to the floor. Inside, a neat stack of cash. 2 months' worth of pay. And a note. "You made the right choice. Be careful. JP." No threats. No demands. Just acknowledgement. Mina sat on the bench and stared at the envelope for a long time. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt seen, exposed, as if he had looked through her, past the darkness she carried, and found something else buried beneath it. Or maybe he had simply recognized a survivor's instinct. Either way, her life had changed. The lantern pearl hummed quietly around her, as if nothing was different, as if tomorrow would be just another shift. But Mina knew better. You don't save the life of a mafia boss without the universe demanding something in return. She tucked the envelope into her backpack, zipped it, and headed into the night. The rain hit her face cold and sharp, but it didn't soothe her this time. She had crossed a line, and lines, once crossed, never really disappeared. But she walked into the rain anyway. Dark girl, dark night, darker future, because what else was there to do? Seattle swallowed her silhouette as she turned the corner and vanished into shadow. And for the first time, she realized she was no longer walking alone. The city was watching her now. Seattle didn't wake up slowly. It rose in layers. The hum of the ferries, the moan of foghorns cutting across Elliott Bay, the soft rumble of buses on wet asphalt, the first hiss of espresso machines all around downtown. Mina Beck watched the city from the fog bus window, the next morning, chin resting on her palm. She had barely slept. Her mind kept replaying the exact moment the capsule dropped into the glass. The way her pulse screamed. The way her instincts took control before her brain could protest. And, of course, the look in June S.E.O. Park's eyes when he unfolded the note. She had seen surprise, real surprise, in a man who normally didn't let emotion slip through even the width of a hair. Not fear, not anger, just acknowledgement, as if she had stepped over an invisible line others rarely dare to cross. The bus jerked to a stop. Mina blinked back to the present. Work. She had to work. Life didn't pause just because she looked death in the face last night. She stepped off the bus and walked through the misty air toward the Lantern Pearl. The strange thing was she wasn't scared. She should have been. She'd seen enough back home to know Mafia men didn't like surprises. They certainly didn't like interference. But the envelope in her locker, the cash, the note, felt more like a warning wrapped in gratitude. It was a complicated message. You're useful. You're noticed. Stay smart. Mina tugged her hood tighter. She didn't like being noticed. Not by men like him. Not by anyone. Dark girls survived by staying small. But now her name, her existence, sat in the mind of a man who controlled half the shadows in downtown Seattle. The Lantern Pearl was already awake when she arrived. Light poured warm amber onto the hardwood floor. Jazz floated softly from the speakers, the kind with slow saxophone notes and ghost-like piano chords. Dae-hyun was wiping down the counter. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't, Mina admitted. Why? Stomach trouble? Woman trouble? Life trouble? None of your business trouble. He laughed. Fair enough. She tied her apron and headed to the back to clock in. Everything looked normal, almost eerily so. But when she turned the corner, she froze. A man she didn't recognize leaned against the lockers. Young, Korean, maybe late 20s, perfectly pressed suit. Not one of the usual lieutenants. His posture had the relaxed confidence of someone whose hands had done far more violent things than wipe tables. His gaze lifted when she approached. You're Mina Beck. Not question. Mina stopped a few feet away. Who's asking? The man pushed off the lockers and walked toward her with the deliberate calmness of a stalking cat. My name is Sun Woo. Sun Woo. She had heard that name whispered once, just once, by one of the older lieutenants. Something about him being one of the cleanest assassins the L.A. crew had ever sent to Seattle, until he switched sides. Traitor or genius. Hard to tell which. What do you want? Mina asked quietly. Sun Woo didn't answer immediately. He studied her the way one might study a puzzle piece they couldn't figure out where to place. You saved the boss last night, he finally said. Not many people would have done that. I didn't do it for him. Doesn't matter. You did it. Mina's fingers curled against her apron. Is he angry about it? No. A small smirk ghosted across Sun Woo's mouth. Quite the opposite. Her stomach tightened. Opposite wasn't always good in this world. Boss wants to see you, Sun Woo said. Mina stiffened. When? Now. Of course. Of course he did. Sun Woo stepped aside, motioning down the hallway. Relax. If he wanted you dead, you wouldn't be standing. That doesn't make me feel better. Wasn't meant to. He shrugged. Just meant to be true. They walked down the corridor together. The closer they got to the private rooms, the heavier the air felt. Soundproof doors. Dark walls. Dim lighting. It was like stepping into the quiet belly of a sleeping beast. Sun Woo opened the final door and gestured her in. Mina took a breath and stepped inside. The room was small but elegant. A round table, black leather chairs, scarlet wooden shelves with no books, only decor. A single window with blinds half closed, letting in slanted lines of morning light. June S.E.O. Park sat at the table, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. He looked like a dangerous man pretending to be soft, or a soft man pretending to be dangerous. Something about him didn't fit neatly into either category. His gaze lifted as she entered. Ms. Beck. Her throat went dry. Good morning. Sit. She did, carefully back straight, hands clasped. June SEO studied her for a long moment. Too long. Long enough for Mina to feel like he was peeling her open without touching her. How long have you worked here? He asked. Almost a year. And in that time, did you ever intend to involve yourself in my affairs? No. Then why intervene last night? Because if she hadn't, she wouldn't sleep for the rest of her life. Because watching someone die silently wasn't something she could swallow. Because darkness didn't always win in her. Sometimes something inconveniently good clawed its way through. But she couldn't say any of that. Because I saw something wrong, she said, and no one else saw it. I did, he replied quietly. Just not as quickly as you. Mina blinked. You saw him drop the capsule? Not the capsule. His posture. His timing. His eyes. Something about the way he reached for the glass was off. But you acted before I confirmed. You weren't angry? If I had been, you'd know. Right? Why did you want to see me? She asked. Junicio leaned back, fingers steepled thoughtfully. Because people don't risk their lives for strangers unless they want something. Mina frowned. I don't want anything. He lifted one eyebrow. Everyone wants something. The room went still. Mina didn't look away. What do you think I want? For the first time, something like amusement flickered in his eyes. If I knew, I wouldn't have asked. Silence stretched. Then he softened barely. You acted with instinct, not calculation. That matters in my world. But it also puts a target on your back. I didn't want a target. No one ever does. He stood abruptly. You can go back to work. But understand something, Ms. Beck. Mina's heart beat once hard. You're not invisible anymore. Sun Wu opened the door behind her. Mina stepped out slowly, pulse still uneven. As she walked back toward the main café, she realized something alarming. She used to be afraid of being noticed. Now she was afraid of what noticing would cost. Her shift dragged on in slow motion. Customers came and went. Cups clinked. Milk steamed. She smiled at people who had no idea how close they were to danger last night. By noon, her nerves calmed, just enough for her to function. And then he entered. Not Junicio. Not Sun Wu. A white man, mid-30s tall, sharp jaw, messy blonde hair damp from rain. Handsome, but in the way trouble often disguised itself. He looked like Seattle wealth, tech money, clean sneakers, Patagonia jacket. He sat at a corner table and watched the cafe quietly. When Mina approached, he smiled gently. Just a black coffee. No sugar. His voice was warm, easy, normal. She wrote the order and returned moments later with the coffee steaming on a small plate. Thanks, he said. Name's Rowan. I just moved here from Colorado. This place was recommended. She nodded. Welcome to Seattle. You look tired, Rowan said, concerned, not flirtatious. Long night. She hesitated. Something like that. Well, he said lightly, raising his cup. Hope your morning goes smoother. She almost smiled. Almost. She walked away, but not before noticing Sun Wu standing near the hallway entrance, watching Rowan too closely, too intently. Something wasn't right. 15 minutes passed. Rowan drank his coffee, checked something on his phone, and left. The moment the bell over the door chimed, Sun Wu approached Mina. You talked to him. He ordered coffee. I served it. He asked questions. Small talk. That's not illegal. It is when it's deliberate. Mina's chest tightened. What do you mean? Sun Wu leaned in slightly. Rowan isn't new to Seattle. He's been here 3 months. We've seen him watching the cafe before. He's not a customer. He's fishing. For what? For us, Sun Wu said. For the boss. For anyone connected. Mina swallowed. Is he a cop? No, Sun Wu's voice dropped. He's worse. Freelance. No badge. No rules. A chill ran down Mina's spine. And now, Sun Wu said, eyes sharp on hers, he's interested in you. Her stomach dropped. But why? She whispered. Sun Wu's expression hardened. Because after last night, you're no longer just a waitress. The word stung like cold metal. That night, Mina walked home with a growing sense of inevitability pressing against her ribs. Seattle looked different, colder. Every streetlight seemed to highlight a shadow. Every stranger's face felt too curious. Every passing car too slow. She should have taken a different route, but routine was a dangerous comfort. Halfway down the block, she heard footsteps behind her. She stopped. The footsteps stopped too. Her heart thudded once, loud enough to echo through her bones. She turned slowly. Rowan stepped into the dim light, hands in pockets, calm smile on his face. "Hey," he said softly, as if they were old friends. "Didn't mean to scare you. You're following me." "Yes. And you admit it. Why hide it?" Rowan shrugged. "You're smart. You noticed. What do you want?" He took a step closer. Mina didn't move. "Last night," Rowan said, "you slipped him that note." Her blood froze. "I saw," he added. "I see everything that happens in that cafe." Mina's breath stuttered. "You're brave," Rowan continued. "Or stupid. Maybe both. But I like people like that. I don't care what you like." "You should," he said quietly, "because you're in the middle now. And men like Park, they're not gentle with the people they keep close." He took one more step. Mina didn't back away. "Tell me, Mina," Rowan murmured, "do you really think he's going to let you walk away untouched?" Her pulse thundered. She hated that he wasn't entirely wrong, but she also hated being manipulated. "Go home," she said coldly. "Leave me alone." Rowan smiled slightly, admiring her nerve. "See you around," he whispered. Then he melted back into the fog. Mina didn't move until he vanished completely. When she finally walked again, her hands were shaking violently. She had saved one man's life last night, but she had stepped into the crosshairs of another, and she couldn't tell which enemy would hurt her more. Who do you think Mina should fear more? The man whose life she saved, or the man watching her from the shadows? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think. The bar was louder that night. Music thumping, voices crashing together. But Jehun only heard one thing. The waitress's whisper, "Don't drink it." He hadn't touched the glass since. It sat in front of him, condensation sliding down the sides like it was sweating from guilt. Jehun kept his face blank, his posture relaxed, pretending nothing was wrong. But inside, every instinct sharpened. Across the room, Chong Min, his underboss, watched him carefully. Too carefully. Jehun spoke without looking up. "Bring her to the back," he said quietly. His men moved fast. Within seconds, the waitress, Hannah, was guided into the dim hallway behind the bar. She looked terrified, hands shaking, but she didn't try to run. Jehun followed, closing the door behind them. The hallway smelled of old wood and cigarette smoke. "Start talking," he said. Hannah swallowed hard. I wasn't supposed to say anything." "You did." Jehun stepped closer. "Why?" Her voice cracked. "Because they told me you wouldn't survive the night." "They?" That word burned hotter than the poison would have. "Who?" Jehun asked. She hesitated, tears forming. "I don't know his name, but he had a scar across his mouth. And he told me to smile and serve you the drink like nothing was wrong." A scar across his mouth. Jehun knew exactly who that meant. His brother's old rival. A man who disappeared years ago. A ghost from Busan who should have stayed buried. Jehun exhaled slowly, the anger settling in like a storm preparing to strike. "You did the right thing," he said. Hannah's eyes widened, surprised. "So, you're not going to kill me?" Jehun shook his head. "Someone tried to poison me in my own territory. I need answers, not another body to clean up." He turned to his men. "Get the cameras. I want every angle, every face from the last 2 hours. And find the man with the scar." Then he looked at the untouched drink still sitting on the tray beside them. Someone wanted him dead, and Jehun never left a debt unpaid. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next, and I'll catch you in the next one.